The big splash hasn't happened. The big splash doesn't need to happen for this to have been a good offseason so far, but it hasn't happened in, like you just said, keyword yet. It could still come. So everyone needs to remember we're at the beginning of roster reshuffling, not at the end yet. So everyone needs to calm down. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't. No major upgrade to speak of along the offensive line. They've retained who they want to retain, Larry, but they haven't improved anywhere yet. What do you think of the incomplete in free agency on the offensive line? Do you think it's fair to give the Niners an incomplete, or did they overlook something that they should have prioritized a little bit more?
Well, I mean, I think it depends what their mindset is. I mean, I thought there were some decent guards out there that were available. Nick Allegretti went to the Commanders. Damian Lewis went to the Panthers. And the Niners, retained Feliciano, retained McKivitz. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl with the line that they have right now. And I think most people believe that, I kind of think the Niners, the way they're looking at their offensive line is that there's no tackles that really could help in free agency. And that if they were going to go tackle, they were going to have to do it in the draft. And then I think there were a few guards that they had interest in, but they instead re-signed Feliciano. So I
thought Kevin Zeitler was a guy that's still out there, by the way.
He's out there. I mean, he's 34, so it's a little on the old side, but he's a tough guy for sure. And that would help them at right guard to have a guy like Zeitler.
Tomlinson, Cody Whitehair.
Right. And maybe they'll grab one of these guys at guard for, when the market starts to depress and these guys are out there for cheaper. But right now, they haven't gone in that direction. But look what they have. They have 10 draft choices. And what are their real needs? If we just said quickly across the board, offensively, they need one more quarterback. Running back wise, they really don't need anybody. I mean, they could use, I guess, one back maybe, but I mean,
Larry, you can pick that guy up off the street. That is a camp running back. You need a camp running back, not a running back that's going to play.
Well, depending on what you think of Mason and Mitchell and the health of McCaffrey, and it's always, it's always, hey, if you can find a great running back can always help you. But I'm just saying, they don't need they need a second or third quarterback. They don't really need a running back. At tight end, you're going to have Kittle and Cam Latu. So and Braden Willis. You probably could use a tight end. You definitely need a right tackle, and you probably need at least one more offensive lineman beyond that.
What about calling up David Bakhtiari and saying, "Look, man, we're going to ask you to play right tackle."
It's about health, I think, with him.
Yeah.
And then receiver wise, I mean, you've got Ayuk, Debo, Jawan, and then you re-sign Chris Conley. They like Ronnie Bell. You have Danny Gray and Tay Martin. So you got 7 receivers right there. You could definitely use another receiver. But I'm just saying, on offense, you don't have a primary need for anything other than maybe an offensive tackle. See, and that's your primary need. The rest of them are all secondary needs. Then you flip the card over to the defense. Your first team defensive line is Hargrave, Collins, Bosa, and Floyd. Your second team D line is Jordan Elliott and Givens inside. Yatir Gross-Matos and either Drake Jackson or Robert Beal outside. So you're kind of about 8 deep there, even though I just named 9 guys. That doesn't include Kalia Davis or T.Y. McGill or Austin Bryant or any of their other guys they have. They've got 4 or 5 other guys. So, I mean, they could use another D lineman, but it's not like, oh, my God, they got to have another D lineman. And then at linebacker, you got Warner. You had just signed Devondre Campbell. You got Greenlaw redshirting for a year, but you still have Flanagan Fowles, very good special team linebacker. And you got 2 young guys that I think are really good in Jalen Graham and D. Winters. So the need at linebacker is not spectacular.
Well, we're going to see in this draft exactly what they think of Graham and Winters, right? The evaluation on both of them will reveal itself based on what they do in this draft. Because if you're talking about the defense, I could see defensive line, corner, safety help. And we'll talk about safeties here in a second.
I mean, safeties. You got Mooney and Hafanga, and you've got Hafanga and Brown, and you got George Odom, who's your special teamer, and you got a couple other guys who are just bodies, and Eric Harris, Taylor Hawkins, not bad, but special teamers, back of the roster guys. So you could use another safety.
Well, and you got
then
to assume the year starts without either Hufanga or Greenlaw. Like both of them are probably not playing week 1, week 2, week 3, right?
Yeah, I mean they're gonna especially Greenlaw. And then corner wise, you got Mooney, you got Ambry, you got Demo. Those are 3. You just signed Yadam. That's 4. You got Luter, who's a 5th round pick, who's they supposedly like a lot. That's 5. You got Womack. That's 6. They just signed the special teamer Chase Lucas. That's 7. You only typically go with 5. So I mean, you could use a true number 1 corner if you could find one. And push everybody down a slot, and because I don't know how much they believe in Luter and Womack, but my point is just this: they have 10 picks, and they probably have 4 or 5 real needs. So if you look at it, this might be the year to trade your 1st and your 3rd and next year's 2 to Denver for Surtain, because if you get a true number 1 corner, now you've made your defense quite a bit better. Now you could probably make the argument the defense next year could be better than the defense last year.
Well, how good? I mean, if Mooney Ward is pretty damn good covering up, blanketing your number 1 receiver, how about Mooney on your 2nd receiver? Now all of a sudden shit gets interesting, right? I mean, how
about Ambry on the bench? I mean, if you had Lenore, Mooney, and Surtain in your back, your back 3 corners, and then you had everybody else just backing up, I think that's a very, very good spot to be. So I'm just saying, I don't know if Surtain's going to get moved. I don't know if they have the draft capital to make it happen. But when I go through the mock drafts and I think, well, wait a second, you might be able to get Surtain for this year's 1st, this year's 3rd, and next year's 2nd. You know what? That might be worth doing. And it's when do you trade for the awesome veteran? You do it the way the Rams did it. They added Jalen Ramsey. Why? Because they were in their Super Bowl window. And what did they do? They won the Super Bowl. I mean, then being in your Super Bowl window is awesome, but if you win the Super Bowl inside your Super Bowl window, that's better. Surtain could be that guy. So I don't know. I mean, I've heard people say, hey, go Graham Barton in the 1st round. Okay. I'd rather have Surtain and a 3rd round offensive lineman or a 4th round offensive lineman than Graham Barton and
right. I'd rather
starting Ambry Thomas.
There are 2 guys who are on this roster who, with great off seasons and step forwards developmentally, can just make everything fit together so much better and so much easier. I think offensively, it's Spencer Burford. I think a huge step into year 3 for a 23-year-old, 30 starts under his belt already, Spencer Burford, to the point where Feliciano is not, even being thought of as someone who's got to start at right guard, is just total backup insurance policy. That would be a huge step forward. And Ambry Thomas is that guy defensively as well. For every 2 really bad Ambry Thomas plays, there's one where he makes a hell of a play, man. I think there's a player in Ambry Thomas. I really do. These things take time.
Yeah. I mean, Ambry Thomas was a 2021 draft choice. Burford was 2022. So, I mean, it's time for these guys to come of age. The only thing I'd say about Burford is there's no guarantee he's going to get there. I mean, he was a 4th round pick. He maybe gets there. He maybe doesn't. I like him. I think he's, in a lot of ways, he's smart. I think he's the prototype physically. I'm okay going forward. I'm not crazy about Brendel after watching DJ Reader kind of take him apart. So if they could get, I'll tell you one move, that would make sense to me is if they get to the bottom of round 1 and they take a center. Zach Frazier from West Virginia is awesome. The guy from Oregon, Powers Johnson,
he's a top 15 pick, probably. He's
probably not
offensive lineman off the board.
Yeah, he's probably not going to get there. But Zach Frazier, I think, is a dominating future Pro Bowl center. Love Zach Frazier. He just buries people. So I'd be happy with Zach Frazier in the 1st round and, going for that tackle. I mean, to me, some of my favorite tackles are Javon Foster, Garrett Greenfield, mean, these guys are going in the third round. So, to me, it's not as the urgency is not there to take that tackle in the first round if there's something else there. But I mean, Mason McCormick is an awesome guard. They could use him. The Zach Frazier's an awesome center. They could use him. In some ways, I look at this draft as this is the draft to load up on 2 or 3 offensive linemen that you love and build your fortress around Brock Purdy. And if you can find one more awesome receiver to help him as well, that would be great. But that's to me, this draft should be about Purdy, protecting Purdy, giving Purdy another weapon, and then maybe filling in on all 3 levels of your defense with, 1 D tackle, 1 D end, 1 linebacker, 1 safety, 1 corner. If you got guys that you like to fill in on your defense, but you've already done a lot on defense. To me, it's like, if you could find 3 really good young offensive linemen that you thought were going to be studs, this would be the draft to do it. I mean, it's a deep draft and there's guys available and you have the need. So I think that's what we're looking at. We're looking at, the draft is going to be about some hand-picked guys on D, but mostly the offensive line.